Hey everybody, welcome to TJ's Lego Room, and today I'm super excited. Even though this is going to be the ending of a whole series of videos, this is the last video that I'm going to do for the Mynock 3 contest. Now I know you're like, wait a minute, didn't that end a while ago? Yes it did. But I have something extremely cool to share with you guys today, and that is that all three vehicles in Mynock Squadron are up on Rebrickable right now for free. You're welcome, Galaxy. Of course, I need to give an especially heartfelt thank you to Ben Bricks. After he ended up winning the contest, he worked with me through email so that we could put together this awesome build. And even though there were a bunch of tweaks that we made, which I'm going to share with you guys right now in this video, they're actually visually, there's not a whole lot that was that's different from what you saw in the contest. So I am excited to show you guys, so let's go ahead and jump into it right away. All right, so here we have our Mynock Squadron. We have Mynock 1 over on the far end there. We have Mynock 3 in the middle and Mynock 5 here on the end. For those of you who are curious, Mynock 2 and 4 are tentatively already scheduled and already have the builds in process. Mynock 2 for sure. Mynock 4 could still change, but I digress. So we have our full Mynock Squadron here, which is really awesome. I love having all these vehicles put together. Interestingly enough, I'm not the first person to have all three of them completely built. I'm actually still missing one part on Mynock 3. I thought I had it, and it ended up being broken. It's one of these little cupboard panels that are on the top there. But I know I've got one somewhere. I just haven't been able to find the one that's not broken. All right, so as many of you guys know, let's go ahead and clear this out just a little bit. Our friend Ben Bricks, that's what he goes by on Instagram if you want to follow him over there. He won the fan vote on which ship was going to enter Mynock Squadron with the designation of, broken Mynock 1. Sorry. With the designation of Mynock 3. His modified Naboo starfighter here that ended up, if you remember the story, was salvaged by the Rebel Alliance pilot Robb Toowers and had some incredible features and designs that made the ship incredibly appealing to the dozens of voters in the contest. I know I say incredible a lot, but it really is incredible. I absolutely love the techniques and the design, and having this in my possession right now is so fun. I was able to take a preliminary version to Brick Slopes and show it off there, which I was really happy to be able to do. And Ben Brooks was also really excited because obviously being an overseas viewer of TJ's Lego Room, was not able to come over to Brick Slopes and see it, but there were some pictures of it that we were able to share with him, and he ended up sharing online, which is pretty cool. And it looked really great with the other ships right up there. So once the ship was chosen, Ben and I, like I said, contacted each other back and forth across email to put together the final version with instructions. So he ended up taking apart his ship and taking pictures of it and sending them to me on email, and I was able to salvage a whole bunch of parts from my collection to be able to build his creation, which is pretty cool. All right, so starting at the very front, we're going to talk about the wings real quick. So for the real eagle-eyed viewers, you're going to be able to see that the whole structure of the build is actually one stud wider than the original submission. Apparently, there was an issue when he was trying to match up the regular system bricks with the Technic liftarms, which honestly is probably one of the harder things to do when you're designing something. And it was just slightly off and couldn't quite figure out exactly why. But thankfully we were able to work together and come up with a solution, and it ended up being that the wing was just one stud wider than the original, which actually isn't a huge deal at all, right? But widening it like that gave us a couple other advantages as we moved on. One of the biggest ones, I think, was just the nose. Originally, the nose was just 4 studs wide on that curve, like a 1x4 curved slope, and now it widens out to 6 studs wide using the 1x3 curved slopes, and I think that worked out quite a bit better, in my opinion. And it looks a lot more sleek. I mean, you look at it, look at that nose, it ties right in and creates a really, really well done curve. So excellent job. Ben Bricks was able to figure out that solution. And then one of the things I did when I first started putting together the ship is I lowered the cannons. So if we look at it from the front, you can see that the cannons are actually right on top of the wings. In his original build, that actually was not the case. He ended up not having the parts to be able to put it that far down. But as soon as I did that and sent him the pictures, he's like, "Oh yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to do." And that actually turned out to be a lot of what Ben Bricks and I were doing back and forth through the entire creative process here. Was one of us would say something or change something in the design on Stud.io, or mention a color change somewhere, and both of us were pretty much in sync on that. I would think of something, and then he would say, "Hey, can we change this?" And I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I was just thinking about that," and it worked out really well. One of the things on that front wing, he had actually told me that it wasn't perfectly lined up before, but I was just trying to read so fast and I was getting into the build so quickly that I must have let it slip my mind. And so when I'm like, "Hey, that doesn't quite line up," he's like, "Yeah, I told you that." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I totally forgot. I forgot that you actually did. I'm sorry." I got to give him credit. He knew that there were everywhere that I made some subtle changes or tried to make things a little more streamlined. He was right on top of it, being like, "Yeah, that was something I wanted to address." And so way to go, Ben Bricks. He's an extremely good builder. Extremely accomplished now, winning a contest. Becoming an official part of the TJ's Lego Room Expanded Universe. Now, one of the last changes we actually came up with was this red stripe at the back. If you look at the original, it actually doesn't have that stripe at the back of the wing that kind of carries through all the way to the back of the ship. And while I was putting it together, and we made a couple of changes to the very edges where it connects to the engines, and while I was working on that, I'm like, "Oh man, I wonder if you could do that in red." But I didn't say anything to Ben, and this is one of those situations where we were thinking the same thing. In the very next email he sent to me, he's like, "Do you think we could change that last part to red? It's not a very hard to find part. It's right on par with the dark bluish gray, but I think the red might look really good." I sent him an email back like, "Dude, I was exactly thinking the same thing. I just didn't want to bring it up because I wasn't sure if we really wanted to change that many colors." Turns out we ended up changing quite a few different colors, but we kept so much that Ben Bricks had going here. One of the things I didn't notice when he first sent it to me is that on the very bottom we have, it's like a dolphin or a shark. It's got layers to the color. So on the bottom we have, the bottom layer is black, and then it moves up and we have the gray and the red creating kind of a stripe between the gray and black. And the extra stripe on the back was just perfect. It really added to that, and it created a little bit of a cutoff between the colors on the top and the bottom, which I thought was really cool. Originally, I had some dark bluish gray parts right here for the slope, and he's like, "Hey, can we change those to black? I think it looks better." And I'm like, "Oh, I totally missed the fact that that was that was the wrong color." So, but it was really awesome. We were able to work off of each other, and I really quite enjoyed the collaborative process between it. And so I'm hoping I can do the same thing with the current contest that we're running right now with the land speeder racing, NASCAR in Star Wars, if you will. Now, one thing I will point out real quick is apparently the telescope has popped off again on the back. There's supposed to be a telescope right here. I don't know what keeps happening to it. It keeps popping off a little bit. I wish I knew a better way to do it. I think the part's just a little old, and I don't have that many of those in black. So, unfortunately, it keeps popping off on me. But it's fantastic. I love having it there, and the little tiny anti-pursuit cannon. You guys know me. I'm big into that. So Ben was extremely instrumental in this process. And as we worked with each other back and forth, it actually turns out he had ordered all the parts he needed to build himself his own Mynock 1 and 5. And as of this week, it actually makes him only the second person in the world to have all 3 current members of Mynock Squadron at once built. And technically, he's actually the first one to have them all built correctly with all the right parts. As I mentioned before, I still don't have that cupboard door piece on that side. So congratulations, Ben Bricks. You have the only full Mynock Squadron in existence in the world. So that's something to be proud of. Well, that is it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that look into the Mynock 3. It really is a fantastic ship, and it looks great with the other ships in Mynock Squadron. Let's go ahead and see if we can get one more image here with all of them together. I have really enjoyed this collaborative process with Ben Bricks. I'm really hoping that the future contests we have going on will yield the same pleasant experience as what Ben has worked with me on for this particular one. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in TJ's Lego Room. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you can go to Rubricable, download the instructions, pick up the parts, and start building your own Mynock Squadron yourself. I have so many plans in store for this, not just the other 2 ships that will make up the 5 ship squadron, but also some storylines that I'm working on to advance their presence in the TJ's Lego Room expanded universe. Yeah, we'll work on the name later. But until we see you next time in TJ's Lego Room, play well. Bye.